Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Aldas, and just really quickly before we get into the topic of this video, I do just want to say a massive thank you to every single one of you for getting me to 50,000 subscribers on this channel. It happened just a few days ago, so yeah, I just want to again say a huge thank you to every single last one of you. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it in this video because I want to try and keep it, compact, concise, and I've got a lot of stuff to get through. So yeah, just know that I've got a very special 50,000 subscriber video coming out very soon that I'm organizing right now, so definitely look forward and keep an eye out for that. Now guys, don't forget, if you do enjoy the content on my channel, then don't forget to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and of course now we are on the road to 100,000 subscribers, so yeah, definitely look forward to that one. And of course, don't forget to check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter will be above, but guys, let's get into this one. Now, despite us only being 2 races into the 2020 season, this season has already felt like just a massive season both on and off the track. Loads of contract talks, loads of movement in the driver market, of course with Sebastian Vettel ending up with no drive for 2021 as of now. Now, I feel like Fernando Alonso going back to Renault for 2021, I feel like that's really closed a big door for Sebastian Vettel, even though I think personally it's just not a move that I ever saw really happening anyway, Seb going to Renault, but certainly the doors for next year are closing fast for the 4-time world champion. Now, there's no doubt that Sebastian Vettel and the caliber of driver that he is, he wants to stay at the front. He wants to at least be able to fight for wins and podiums, if not still be able to fight for a championship next year. And sadly, the only place at all that is going to happen is going to be at Red Bull, because I seriously doubt, and certainly with some of the rumors, some of the very heavy rumors that we've seen over the past couple of days, of apparently Bottas signing a contract already with Mercedes, just waiting for it to be announced, Red Bull now is the only realistic option for Sebastian Vettel to fight for a title, wins or podiums in 2021. However, Red Bull themselves are also not exactly in the most stable position, and they haven't exactly got the most stable of driver lineups, from having Ricciardo in 2018 and then him leaving. I thought, by the way, the Ricciardo Verstappen partnership was actually something pretty special, but I think it was a massive loss to the team when Ricciardo left in 2018, and then of course Gasly for the first part of 2019 and then being replaced and ousted, and then having Albon come in, and now Albon is basically just starting his first ever proper season with Red Bull in 2020. Yeah, there's just a lot of instability, a lot of insecurity, and even now in 2020, despite some of the things that the team has been saying, the likes of Christian Horner and of course Helmut Marko, I do still believe that they are not 100% sure if a Verstappen Albon partnership is going to be good enough in the future to beat the might that is Mercedes. So yeah, there is a lot of things just in the air at the moment, and certainly for Alexander Albon, this is a huge year, a monumental year where he can prove to Red Bull that he deserves to be in a team fighting for not just wins, but hopefully the championship in the future, because as we're at the top, it is only the best and the most highest of quality drivers on the grid. So yeah, absolutely massive year for Alexander Albon to prove Red Bull that he is the right man to take them forward along with Max Verstappen. I think Red Bull have hit a very critical point now, because they need to make a very big decision, not just in terms of what their driver lineup is going to be for the future, but what kind of team dynamic is best for their team, and what kind of team dynamic and really drive dynamic as well is going to beat Mercedes and win them titles in the future. Because, and I've talked about this many times, Mercedes really are probably the greatest team we've seen in Formula 1 ever, in terms of efficiency, in terms of never giving up, in terms of driver standards, in terms of team quality. They are just on another level. They are relentless every single season, and how do you stop them? It's not just good enough for Red Bull to be able to catch up and maybe match Mercedes. If you want to beat Lewis Hamilton, a 6-time world champion, and if you want to beat Valtteri Bottas, and despite all of the memes and the jokes, in my opinion, he's almost become a little bit underrated, because Valtteri is a quality racing driver who on his day will be able to beat Lewis Hamilton and challenge for a title. And if you want to beat that team, if you want to beat the guys who have just won the last 6 championships in a row and will probably go on to win the 2020 world title as well, you don't just need to catch up, you need to somehow jump ahead of them, and that is not going to be easy. So Red Bull have to look at themselves and say, is the driver lineup of Max Verstappen and Alexander Albon, a number 1 driver and a number 2 driver, is that going to be good enough to jump ahead of Mercedes? Not just match them, but jump ahead of them to really fight them for a title. So this is where Sebastian Vettel kind of steps into the equation, because the big question is a partnership of Vettel and Verstappen going to be better than Albon and Verstappen when it comes to actually fighting Mercedes, and not just fighting them, but beating them? Because Red Bull themselves are under pressure. You know, ever since 2017, they've got the aero genius in Adrian Newey. They've got an amazing team and amazing management. But the fact of the matter is that as a team, they have not been able to create a car that is at least capable of challenging for a championship, and that is just not good enough. So clearly they need all the help they can get, and that is why the conversation always comes back to what is the best driver lineup for Red Bull in the future to be able to challenge for a title. Now, to get a little bit of a different perspective on this, I've drafted in Tomo F1 because I know that he's quite an outspoken guy when it comes to this topic, and I absolutely love that. You know me, guys, I'm quite outspoken myself, so yeah, I definitely love what Tomo has to say. But I do just want to quickly clarify that this was recorded after the Austrian Grand Prix, but before the Styrian Grand Prix. So yeah, just wanting you guys to know that. But anyway, Tomo, take it away.
So yeah, I saw this on Twitter. Rumours. Apparently Sebastian is going to be taking Alex's seat. Big rumours, of course. Nothing's solid. And I tweeted saying that would be a marketing move from Red Bull, not a move on merit. And I got lambasted for it by a lot of people. A lot of people on Twitter with Sebastian Vettel pictures as their profile pictures, which is fine. You know, I understand that people support Sebastian Vettel. To me, though, there is an issue because, look, you can support someone, but also criticise them. Sebastian hasn't been good enough. He's been making mistakes left, right and centre for the last 2 years. You could argue more, but I'm saying 2 years. And to me, to move to Red Bull, a team that's built itself around having these young, exciting drivers, it doesn't make sense to me for a couple of reasons. Now, first, the reason I think it would make sense is from a marketing point of view, and that's what I tweeted in terms of Red Bull bringing back their four-time world champion is going to draw eyes to that team, is going to draw attention. And the thing is, Seb was on his job. Yes, 2014 wasn't a great year, but he won his 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013 titles in that Red Bull. 2014 wasn't a great year. Then he left to Ferrari. You know, maybe his downfall has been due to the Ferrari car. Maybe it's down to him. Probably it's part of both. You know what I mean? But the idea of bringing him back to Red Bull, where he was so successful, has an allure to it. Of course, I understand that. Completely appreciate that. But Red Bull have made it clear who their number one is. All their eggs are in the Max Verstappen basket, right? They've made that very clear, okay? And Max is an incredibly talented driver. To bring in Sebastian, who historically has not worked well with teammates who have, you know, been on it, Daniel Ricciardo at Red Bull, you know, Charles Leclerc at Ferrari now. Why would Red Bull risk doing that when they've got a perfectly capable driver in Alex who is prepared to make the moves that they want to see a driver making? Yes, they didn't work on Lewis, but that wasn't his fault. I think the general consensus is that Hamilton was more at fault than Alex for both of those incidents, right? Why would they bring in someone like Seb, who historically doesn't work well with a young teammate who's and essentially goes, Red Bull would be like, you're going to have to be second driver. Would Seb be happy with that? I don't see him being happy with that. I think he wants to be number one, and I think, again, the evidence we've seen out there proves that point. Now, when you look at race pace, compare Alex and Sebastian. You know what? Like, I think Alex edges it personally, but I'm not going to die on that hill. Like, I completely understand that. I don't think there's much in it, and I completely understand if people think I'm stupid for saying that and be like, oh, actually, Sebastian's got much more race pace. Maybe he has. Okay, let's just say he has. Okay, let's just say Sebastian's got more race pace. The mistakes are not good enough. So Alex made mistakes last year. He's a rookie. Rookies make mistakes. That's part of it. Young drivers make mistakes because you're growing and you're developing, you're moving. Now, when a 4 times world champion who's been at a top team for 3 years starts making all these mistakes, that's a bit different. And the first race of this season, and I'm not just judging it on this, but I was so frustrated watching him spin out and being like, Sebastian, come on, man. I want you to take this Ferrari team by the scruff of your neck and prove to people like me who don't think you're at the level you used to be that you are. But that's the thing, like, you can't judge someone based on how good they were 6 years ago. And I feel with Sebastian, I'm sorry, but all things are pointing towards him not being at the level that he once was because of all these mistakes. He wasn't making all these mistakes. Yes, he made some mistakes, but not to the extent that he has been recently when he was dominating. And I think, like, I'm calling it as it is. I'm calling it as I'm seeing it, man. Like, you've got to do that. It's not 2013. It's 2020. Sebastian's in a Ferrari, and he's not performing at the level that I think he could do. Because I think if he ironed out these mistakes in terms of his actual race pace, I think he's still up there. But these mistakes, you cannot ignore them. And for me, to get him in at Red Bull, it would just cock up what they've got going with Max. Because I think they've got a really good chance at a title with Max. And bringing in someone like Sebastian, again, who historically doesn't work well with a young, upcoming teammate who's being put above him, it don't make no sense to me.
So thank you to Tomo for his thoughts on a potential Vettel comeback and what he thinks should happen at Red Bull for next year. Now, in terms of what I think, this is a very tricky one because personally, I honestly think that it can go both ways because on one side, on the Alexander Albon side, he really impressed me in 2019. He was able to do what Pierre Gasly couldn't, and Albon at times showed real fight and desire and just a fire within to actually go for those moves. And, you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It seems like they usually don't against Lewis Hamilton, which were no fault of his own, let's be honest. But the one thing that has been kind of lacking about Albon is his progression since then. You know, he hasn't really shown that he's stepped up his game in 2020 and even last time out in Styria. Although Max Verstappen pitted right at the end one more time than his teammate, Alexander Albon was a net 35 seconds off Verstappen at the end of the race, which is just not good enough. You know, it's not as bad as Pierre Gasly who got lapped, but still, that's just not good enough. And although Red Bull themselves do say that he is doing everything that he needs to, backing Max Verstappen up, is he really backing Max Verstappen up? Because the one thing that Max really got caught out in Styria is that it was just a pincer movement. He was caught in a Mercedes sandwich, and strategically, you know, he himself on the radio was confused who he was fighting with. You know, are we trying to catch Lewis Hamilton or are we trying not to get jumped by Valtteri Bottas? And that is why you need a very strong teammate, not just the number 2 driver, but a very strong teammate to actually give a little bit of a headache to Mercedes themselves. And does Albon have the capability to step his game up in 2020 and actually give Mercedes a headache in some of the races? And that is why I do still think there is a big question mark around the partnership of Alexander Albon and Max Verstappen in the future when it comes to actually fighting for titles. So that's why Sebastian Vettel could perhaps be seen as quite a good pick for Red Bull, because although there's no doubt that some of the things that Tomo said were absolutely accurate, but the one thing I do disagree on is the fact that Alexander Albon, I don't think he has more race pace than Sebastian Vettel. We've seen Seb have problems with making mistakes or maybe just being beaten a little bit by his teammate, but I don't think we've ever looked at Seb during a race and thought, oh, you know, he's 30, 40 seconds behind his teammate, where is his race pace gone? However, what was true that Tomo said was that he has had a bit of trouble with younger teammates, and I do see that driver lineup as quite a fiery one with Verstappen and Vettel. But in terms of the quality of the drivers, is that partnership something that is going to give Mercedes something to think about and something to really kind of put them in a bit of trouble? So that is where all of this lies. You know, there's no doubt that Alexander Albon has done exactly what he needs to do for Red Bull, and certainly they've seemed happy with it. But when it comes to the top 3 teams and when it comes to racing for Red Bull, we're not looking for mediocrity and we're not looking for drivers who are just able to do what they should be able to do. We're looking for those exceptional drives and those exceptional performances, and that is why Red Bull really do seriously need to consider Sebastian for 2021. But overall, to summarize my thoughts, guys, and what I would do if I was in Christian Horner's shoes is to just chill out a little bit with all of these rumors and just give Alex the time and wait until the end of the season, you know, September, October kind of time, and then reassess and kind of really make a firm decision, because there's no doubt that, you know, Sebastian Vettel is not going to go anywhere, and if he is serious, then he is going to wait out for that Red Bull seat, and of course, Alexander Albon will always be available for next year. So just wait until the end of the season, reassess Alexander Albon, and then decide, is Albon Verstappen, that partnership, is it going to be good enough in the future to win titles with that number 1 and number 2 dynamic, or do perhaps Red Bull need to bring in a more experienced driver, a 4-time world champion like Sebastian Vettel? And although it might create a fiery dynamic between the drivers because they are both ultra competitive, is the risk over reward kind of factor going to be worth it? And is it going to be something that is actually going to be able to challenge the likes of Mercedes in the future? Well guys, there you go. That is my thoughts and also the thoughts of Tomo F1 on the current Red Bull driver situation. I think it's a very interesting conversation because obviously on one side, Alexander Albon has done everything he needs to do and he is just doing a really good job, to be honest, and has been a little bit unlucky. But on the other hand, I think a Verstappen Vettel partnership, is that what Red Bull actually need to beat the likes of Mercedes, you know, if Albon is not quick enough? So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys, and comment what do you think should be Red Bull's driver lineup in 2021, and most importantly, what driver lineup is going to be able to beat Mercedes to a world championship. Anyway guys, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, don't forget to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter will be above. But guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.